everyone, welcome to Lady in the Red Bandana. Today we are going international. We're going to Auckland, New Zealand, and we're here with Susan, who is a nutrition and wellness consultant in Auckland. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Great, great.
Good. How is the weather over there?
Beautiful, not a cloud in the sky, so it's been great. We've had a lot of cloudy days.
I wish we could say that for over here. So I'm just going to hand it over to you for just a moment. If you want to introduce yourself and explain to our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Thomas. I'm a nutrition and wellness consultant. That's what I do as a business. I've been happily married for over 33 years. We have 3 grown children. Our oldest is married and has our 2 grandchildren, and they live in Nashville, Tennessee. My husband and 2 sons live over here in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand. We've been here almost 4 years, or my husband and I have been here almost 4 years. The boys have been here a little bit longer. And we've done quite a lot of international moving back and forth between the US and New Zealand. And that's how I met Marish.
So it was great meeting you. Obviously, it was meant to be for a reason. I always think that these meetings are meant to be for a reason. And so how did you get started with your nutrition and wellness consulting business? How did that all begin?
Well, pretty interesting story, I suppose. A little bit of my background. I started off with my undergraduate degree was in finance and banking. So I studied a lot of business, a whole lot of accounting. And mainly I got into that, not necessarily knowing what I wanted to do or be in life, but it ended up being that that's what I got. I really enjoyed the whole balance thing in accounting, that you had to balance both sides. And then I was just fascinated with numbers, not necessarily great at it, but fascinated with that. So then I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years or more. And my daughter, after the kids were all either in university or just out of university. And she said, Mom, maybe it's time to reinvent yourself, because I'd been doing all this volunteer work and not really using a whole lot of brain power, I suppose. And I thought, well, how do I do that? I don't want to do finance and banking or accounting. I'm just far removed from that. And she said, why don't you just get into doing something where you just share what you're so passionate about? You know, you love being a mom, you love being a wife, you love raising a family and teaching children and volunteering and helping other people just be a better version of them with all your teaching and mentoring that you do. And so I thought about that for a while, and she suggested I start doing, some blog posting. And so yeah, that's kind of how I started. So yeah, that's how I got going.
It's nice that you've got a massive family influence, and I'm assuming, and I sort of know as well, that your support network is really quite tight, and your family is really quite tight, and you hold that very close to your heart, which is really nice to see as well. So let's go on to a little bit about your experiences. So you've just talked a little bit there about your daughter influencing you to do something with something that you love and you're passionate about, which is always great when it comes to business, you being passionate about things. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you were. So we always experience the highs, we experience the lows. I always call them learning curves to anyone, because we have to experience them to get to a position that we want to get to. So if you can go through your little journey on how you got to where you were.
Okay, I think, well, I don't know, naturally as humans, I think we tend to start with the bad stuff, unfortunately. But as far as like lows, before I even got into really figuring out what I was going to do with, what am I going to do with this? What do I go from just posting information about stuff to help encourage other people? How do I turn that into a business? As I said before, I'd spent a lot of time working with middle school, high school students, family, friends, but mostly I was working with young people, and I loved it. I've almost felt like I could be a kid along with them, but then I'm guiding them, and they could relate to me, because I felt like I was a young mom and my kids were still young. But trying to turn it into a business, I felt, well, then I needed to be working with adults. And to be quite honest, I was pretty intimidated with that. I thought, would adults take me seriously? Would they want to hear what I'm, going to tell them? Would they say, well, what makes her an expert? So I was a little bit nervous about that. So I think I just kind of started off with it. Plus, I think when I first started, of course, you're kind of working with your family and your friends and things like that. And um, it took me a little while to realize that when I wanted it really badly for someone, but they didn't want it in terms of making changes, then we weren't really going to be successful. So that was part of a low that I thought I have to figure out how to do this, as well as just being able to be myself, be comfortable, and just kind of let it go. Thankfully, I feel very fortunate that my husband wasn't really concerned that I was bringing in a lot of money. It was just he was happy that I was engaged and I was using my mind and I was, getting fulfilled and not just, being, staying at home or hanging out with friends or doing stuff that wasn't very productive. So I guess the next thing was I started having adults that I was working with that were having success seemed to really, the feedback was coming in really strong. They were saying they really enjoy my style, I'm pretty laid back on things. I'm not in their face. I'm not demanding. I'm patient. I respect their privacy. I'm very honest. But also with the fact that I share a lot of my own experience and my own feelings of how I've dealt with nutrition and fitness and all of these things that envelop, a whole body wellness. They really related to it. I also try to bring evidence-based science information into the equation, just because I think that's important. But I gauge from the client as to whether or not that's something they're really interested in. So I kind of decide, early on, do they really want to hear all the science? Do they not? And so I think it just makes people comfortable. If I get too sciencey, too deep, then it's like, it's way over their head. They don't get it. So I just try to use, real experiences. I try to break it down into real simple analogies or examples to help them learn it. And suddenly something that was fairly complicated seems so clear to them. So it makes them be able to relate to it. So I guess that became a high, that I was able to relate that to my clients, making them feel comfortable, because as you would know, as your clients are comfortable, they are more open and willing to be honest and share what they're dealing with. That helps me be able to help them a lot better. So to me, that's a big win when you can reach that point with your clients.
Absolutely. I think, again, in the industry that I'm in, if you can't make your clients happy, then it's a bit of a mountain to climb. You think, oh goodness, what can I do? Because that is the result that we want at the end of all of this, isn't it? Really, a client to be happy. Sure. And sure, because it's your passion as well, you want that result for somebody as well. So yeah, I completely understand that. So that's a really nice way of putting a low as well, that you've literally just turned that right round into something really positive, which is great, because that's what people want to hear as well. Now, I use this word quite a lot in most of the interviews that I've done, but it's about empowerment. And you have to keep on learning, I'm assuming, with your job. You're forever learning. Things are changing all the time. Technology is changing. The way people respond to you will change at the same time. And all clients are different too. So you'll have different responses from different people. So how do you feel empowered by your knowledge? And when you're talking to your clients, what sort of result would you like for them? I know we've touched on it lightly, but how do you feel empowered by it?
How I feel empowered by it? Well, first of all, I know the effects and the transformation that learning how to take on board anti-inflammation, nutrition, and lifestyle changes, how dramatic that can make in terms of your health and your wellness and your future longevity and reducing your risk and slowing down the aging and all of those things, just because personally I've done it. So I know the benefit of it. I know what it takes. And so to me, that's just so much motivation for me to share with other people. So I feel like when I can really connect with them and really get them to understand what it's going to take, it's not a magic pill. It's not a wand I can wave over their head and then suddenly poof, they're going to have all of these benefits. It's going to take some work, and it's going to take a journey. It isn't, for people, especially if they've put on a lot of weight, or they've just, in a really down, depressed, struggle with just a lot of different issues, health wise. You just can't fix that overnight. It is, they didn't get it overnight, and you certainly can't fix it overnight. So it's working through those things. But if I can break it down into simple enough concepts and work with them, each week, talking to them and staying on a pretty regular schedule and monitoring them on the way, as they start seeing the benefits, which I'll say something in a minute, they will become more motivated. So, but often, in fact, very often, it's surprised me. That's something that's really surprised me through this whole thing, is that so many people they're living for tomorrow, or they were too busy thinking about the past that they don't live in the present. So when I start talking to, after a week of, being on this new plan with them, I'll ask them, how are you feeling? And the first thing they'll say is, oh, pretty good. But you'd kind of say that normally anyway, but then I'm like, no, really, how are you feeling? Like, then I go through a whole step, checklist is like, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? How do you feel after you've eaten a meal, that you've eaten the right amount of food? How do you feel 2 hours after your meal? How do you feel in the middle after the afternoon, when you might have previously felt this lull and being so tired? And you'd be surprised how many people hadn't really noticed changes until I asked them to think about it. And then they'll say, well, I used to always get a coffee. I'm not drinking near as much coffee. In fact, I'm not drinking any coffee in the afternoon anymore, but it's like they don't even realize it anymore. Or whether they felt the need for an afternoon nap, or just, they're exhausted when they come home from work. Now they're telling me that they're out walking the dog, or they've gone for a workout before dinner or whatever. And I was like, that is a huge change. So that's telling me that you're getting a whole lot more energy, and you're just powering through your day. And what about concentration? Have you been able to concentrate more? And just like a girl I worked with yesterday, she said, well, now that you mention it, I'm not falling asleep in my math class after lunch. I was like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So, but it's pulling it out of them for them to realize it. And then too many people are fascinated, or obsessed perhaps, with the number on the scale when it's a weight thing, gain weight or lose weight. And I'll just say, how are your clothes fitting? Are you finding that you need to take the belt up a notch, or your clothes are looser, or you're able to get into a pair of pants, or, a skirt that you haven't been able to get into in a long time, maybe even years. Oh, by the way, yeah, that I am noticing that. So I was like, okay, well, don't worry so much about the scale. How are you feeling? Just in so many different ways. The weight will come off if it's, weight you're trying to lose. But so that to me is something that I have to kind of pull out of people at times, to get them to think about it, to be present. It's such a mindful thing, a wellness journey. So.
I think with being present, people find that quite hard, because we do, at the moment in the UK, we can't do anything. We're just stuck in this stupid lockdown at the moment. And it's, I remember going out for dinner, a year ago, going out for dinner. And just when we're talking, it's always about what happened before, or what we're gonna do next week, or the next time we go out for dinner, what shall we do? And it's, you're never talking about what you're doing right there, and enjoying that moment. And I do think that's really important. So it's nice that you're getting your clients to actually realize what's happening to them at that point, because I'm on a fitness journey of my own at the moment, and I do have to keep telling myself, look at how different you are now to 6 weeks ago where you first started. So we do sometimes need that push to be like, you're doing good. Something has changed as well, and that must be really fulfilling for you as well.
It is. And for clients then to come to me and I'll, ask them how they're doing and how, how's it all going for them. But certainly when they start saying, my dad, I hadn't seen him in about a month, and he noticed my face was thinner and that I'd lost weight, and he asked me, and he didn't know I'd been doing this. Or, another guy was doing some, competitive motorbike racing or something, in treacherous areas. It just sounded kind of very dangerous to me, but that's something he was really passionate about. And he was able to train with someone that he hadn't seen in a couple of years. That was kind of one of his, we said it was his idol, someone that he really hoped, to be as good as this guy. And they picked a pretty difficult run to go on. And this guy who was his mentor or whatever was so impressed with his performance and his body just being able to handle it, and how much he'd slimmed down and muscled up. And, so he just was walking on cloud nine, that even though he was feeling this way, he then got confirmation from someone who knew him 2 years ago. And now to see how much he had changed and was able to, handle what he was doing. So it just made him feel so good. And he was like, wow, I needed your help to be able to get this. I didn't think I would ever get this. So that to me is, it's obviously empowered him, but it empowers me to feel like that I was able to achieve something through this journey, this relationship with him, and for him to be able to open up so that I could help him. So that's very rewarding, both sides.
With your job, your industry, it is very much an industry where you're looking after a lot of people, and you take on a lot of energies from other people, whether they're feeling good, whether they're feeling bad. How do you make sure you look after yourself to make sure that you don't take in too much?
That's a good question. I know with our first lockdown, that was quite long. And then suddenly I couldn't be in person with people. So I had to figure out a way to do it online if I was going to, keep my business going. I had to make changes to be able to reach them. And so I was putting a lot of energy in it. I also, in trying to always practice what I preach when I'm telling people, to stay connected with other people, call people, even if you can't go out of your house or you can't go across town to see them, call them, or, just, and get to know your neighbors and, kind of do all this stuff. So I was trying to do all that as well as still be productive and keep my mind going so that I wasn't sitting idle and going crazy. I did notice that I was pushing it too hard, and I was finding that I was spending too much time on the computer, too much time thinking about work and not enough time just relaxing and doing all the self-care things that I needed to do. And so I had to pull back, and I felt a whole lot better. But I think it was a really good lesson for me, is that not only am I trying to encourage stress management and doing all the things mindfully to let their body relax so that their body would be able to lose weight and feel better and, rejuvenate and all those things. I certainly have to do that for myself. So that was something that, and I think it comes around every few months, that it's a little reminder to me. And I also know that keeping my immune system strong and trying to encourage my family to do the same thing. And we eat well at home, and we all exercise and drink lots of water and all those kind of things. So it's, I got to practice what I preach. So it's those things that I need to do. And I'm motivated to do them because I want to be a good role model for my clients.
With what's happening, you're almost, it's like us, you're open and close and open and close, and it's just changing all the time. How have you dealt with that mentally?
I wouldn't say I'm a homebody, but I do enjoy being in my home. I enjoy being, my husband, he basically works out of the house, and oftentimes I'm working out of my house. So we're around each other a lot, and we really like to be a part of each other's lives. We have our own separate things going, but we like to be around it. So it kind of gave us an opportunity that instead of us doing our own workouts at different times of the day, we would then exercise together. So I think lockdowns certainly haven't been atrocious. They've been manageable. The first one was hard because it was so long. And then when we had the next one not too long afterwards, you just kind of think, oh, is it going to be like that again? It's hard to keep that motivation, to keep the exercise going and all the stuff when you're out of your normal routine. But overall, it's been okay. And most of my clients were fine with, doing Zoom calls. So, which there's still that connection there. I can still see their face. You don't see all the body language necessarily when it's just, head and shoulders, but that's been good. But for other people that didn't want to do the Zoom, I had to put it off. Or if we were in the middle of sessions, then we'd have kind of a long gap. I might send them a text or something, see how they're doing, just to, a quick catch up. But that made it hard when that would happen. I don't feel like we probably succeeded as well as I would have liked to had it been an ongoing routine thing. But that's life. And, my tagline is personalized wellness integrated with your busy life. Well, we all have busy lives, and that includes having to go into lockdown. So it's, how do we integrate that and deal with it? Because we're all going to be experiencing life, ups and downs. So
Absolutely. It's a really strange thing because none of us ever really thought that this would, I'd never thought that this would happen ever
Yeah.
in my lifetime, and it's been a really strange, but
Yeah.
we've had to adapt, like you say. And if you are passionate enough about your business and about what you do, then you do adapt and you just do as much as you can. Do you find your clients are as engaged as they used to be when they were face to face with you, or do you feel like they are a little bit distant?
I think it's probably on an individual basis. Yeah, like I do feel like there's a deeper connection, an easier connection when you are in person. Just like when I do my posture module, I have to set up my laptop in such a way that they can see me do all these, like different little exercise things or, body checks or whatever to help them with that. And I just, I'm not normally, if I'm in person, we do it together, and I can show them and they can show me what they're doing and I can correct a few things. So, I can imagine like with personal trainers, it must be a challenge. But, I mean, you figure out a way to do it and make it work, I suppose.
So this is a question I've not asked anybody in advance because I want it to come from the heart. So what or who inspires you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. My daughter inspires me. She is one that has a huge heart, but she's also a very determined young lady. And she is passionate about her family. And she would, you think about fighting to the death or whatever, she would do that for her family. And the passion comes through so strongly, and almost makes me choke up. So proud of her. She's had a health battle on her own that she had to go through, and we were doing everything we could, but she just had to gear down and get herself well and figure out what the best. We helped her with making decisions, but ultimately it was on her, and so she's tremendously strong. So I would definitely say that. And my two sons have been there to direct me and guide me. My husband, endless conversations with them, and they think the world of me. We have a State of the Union family talk most every year. COVID's kind of messed that up since we haven't been able to get all together, but that support from my family is huge. I wouldn't be near the person that I am now without them. So hands down, it's family.
That's fantastic. It's been so nice to talk to you. And thank you for getting up early to speak to me as well. And is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners or viewers, or to me?
Well, I love the fact that you're doing this, because I think it's something that people love you. So they're going to be a magnet to want to hear what you're saying. And you're taking the time out to work with, talk with all these people and interview and ask all these questions. And I think we all need to help each other. I think we're all, COVID's affecting all of us. And it's been such a mental drain on everyone, not to mention, physical drains and relationship drains and all of those things. So I think wherever we can get a boost, can get inspiration from each other, we need to do that. So I appreciate that you're doing this. I think it's wonderful.
You are very welcome, and I'm very glad that I've had you on the show. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Marish. Take care. I would have to say my number one thing is having faith. Personally, that's mine, and I encourage that in other people, because you've got to have that stability in your life. You've got to have that rock. You've got to have something that's unshakable, because life shakes us like crazy. And that, to me, brings me so much strength. It builds a very strong sense of identity in myself, and it's not a selfish thing. So to me, that would be my number one thing. Personal care for other people, taking time out for yourself. I talk a lot about this with my clients. People kind of think it's selfish to go and do things for themselves, get their nails done or get, whatever. But at the end of the day, when you're caring for your family and for others, or for your employees or whatever, you're constantly giving of yourself. And if you're not basically filling up your own reservoirs of care, then you can't possibly do a very good job caring for other people. So it's not a selfish thing. It's, if we treat just like in the first thing with the faith, if we treat our bodies as a gift that was given to us, we need to take care of that gift. And in order to share our knowledge, and care with other people, it's got to really come from a very viable, strong source. And so you've got to build what you have so that you can share it with other people. So self-care is not selfish. It's so paramount to our own well-being as well as our people around us that we influence. And then third thing, it's hard to narrow this down to three things.
Yeah, it is, I know.
Third thing, gosh, I would just say, nourish your body with good, healthy food, move your body. I know I'm going into more, but just taking care of your body in every aspect. Take care of your mind. It's so important, because any one of those things, if they start falling down, then it affects the rest of the program. Stressful relationships cause you to eat and drink different. Maybe you drink more alcohol when you're stressed out. So it's like total body wellness is just like work on all of those things because it's so important.
We have been the lady in the red bandana, and we want you to be empowered to believe in yourself.